My name is Terrence Mann. I am the professor and director here at Western Carolina in the musical theater program, and I'm directing Hair.
Now, you're 65 years old. Have you seen any kind of repurpose in the craft that you love, that is theater, or justification in your career with turning 65?
No, I just find the older I get, the less I know.
I agree with that. But that's the wisdom. That's the paradox, right?
It is the paradox. It's the conundrum too. But yeah, I just find that the older I get, the more I just want to learn. I remember John Huston, the very famous film director. He was being interviewed when he was in his 80s. He just finished this last film that he did, and he was being interviewed, and they were asking him, what you've done everything, you've won everything, you've been everywhere, you've created, you're iconic in the industry. What do you want to do now? And he said in that inimitable voice of his, he said, well, I hope to stay interested.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. You just want to hope that you stay interested in what you're doing.
Well, I was talking to David, was it Grisman? Who was it? It's Del McCrory, the bluegrass musician, very famous bluegrass musician, and he's in his late 70s, and he had said, I'd asked him, he's been performing since he was a teenager, going on 60 plus years of performance, and I said, why do you still do it? And he goes, well, I think I'm here because I never lost interest in it, and I always found every time I thought maybe I would lose interest, something would pique it again. A new project, a new collaboration, something.
Right.
And that's why he was there, and other people either retired or walked away from the industry.
Yeah, that has happened to me a couple of different times where I thought, I'm just done with this, I'm bored with being an actor. And then I'll do a project with a certain director that just, it all of a sudden, I can look at it through that part of the prism.
Yeah.
That paradoxical prism of art.
What do you, you've been here for a little while at Western Carolina, but what is it about being at this school in this area that's kept you here? I mean, being someone who's spent a good portion of his life in the world epicenter that is Manhattan.
Right. 10 years ago, they asked me to come down here and help be part of a musical theater program, and I said, yeah. But I've always been in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I went to school in North Carolina.
School for the Arts.
I went to School of the Arts and worked at the Lost Colony as an actor and as a director. I don't think I would have had the career I've had without the state of North Carolina, supporting me and giving me lots of opportunities. Meeting the director, Joe Layton, who gave me my first Broadway show because he was directing The Lost Colony, and I met him in New York. So there was, the network started here for me. So I've always felt an affinity and a loyalty to being here. Plus, it gives you such perspective when you're to get out of the city, to get out of that, as you said, the mecca and the epicenter of, because there's the business of show up there more than there is show business, and I just like to be reminded of why I do what I do, and when I come down here and work with the students, it does that for me.
Well, when with anything in the creative arts, there's always that inner conversation you have at some point in your early part of your career that, hell or high water, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I always feel like you need to have that conversation to go through all the obstacles in a creative field. But was there a moment for you specifically that you knew that this was what you wanted to do with your life?
I never had that
eureka moment,
that epiphany or that eureka moment. I just had always done it. My mom was a piano player, but they worked. She worked at a travel agency, and my dad was a social worker, but they were both musicians and they were both singers, so it was all, on the weekends we had parties, so I was always doing it, and at church I was always doing it. We were always playing music and doing plays and stuff, and then in high school I was doing it, so I didn't have it was just something that I always was doing.
Yeah.
And I had, and to this day, people say, how do you feel about where you've gotten, and how did I said, well, I just had no expectation. Anything that I got was a gift. You asked me to do this children's theater down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Yeah, I'll go do that. And You asked me to do the Shakespeare Festival. Yeah, I'll go do that. Oh, and then go to New York. Oh, I'll go audition for some off-Broadway stuff. Yeah, I get a play. Oh, now I get a Broadway show. So I didn't have any sort of brass ring to grab.
But with that said, though, does that mean that you've always been aware of being in the moment rather than worrying about the past or the future?
Correct. It's exactly right. Yeah.
So you're in the now always.
I'm in the now always.
Yeah.
And I don't take it for granted, and this may all go away tomorrow.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. And the older you get, the more you start to own that.
Yeah. That you can't control anything.
Correct.
But the funny part is when you realize you can't control anything is when you actually start having clarity.
Yes. Yes, exactly right.
It's
you have to let it all go
Yeah.
for the important stuff to
Yeah.
be there, you know.
When you're on stage, what is that like for you to be in that moment, especially with Broadway? I don't know, because I'm not an actor, if Broadway is all it's chalked up to be as the dream of any actor. But what is it like to be in that moment where, I guess, what was it like the first time you were on Broadway?
Well, it's funny because I'd gone to the School of the Arts where I'd done a lot of great plays, and I wanted to be a Shakespearean actor, classical actor. I was very happy doing that. Then I went to the Shakespeare Festival over in High Point for 2 years. And so when I went to New York and just on a lark went down to audition for Barnum, and Joe Layton was directing, and he just made sure I made the cut and then gave me my show. I'd never wanted to be in musicals.
Yeah.
Musicals was not anything I was really interested in. I wanted to be a serious classical actor. I wanted to be the third spear chucker from the left down on the public theater, Work with Joe Papp, some serious shit. So like I said, I had no expectation other than the lowest level entry actor. But so when all of a sudden I'm in a Broadway show, once you've done, for me, once I've done Henry IV, and I've done Hamlet, and I've done all those other shows with the Shakespeare Festival. To go do a musical, it's easier in a way.
Are you a purist?
I am.
Yeah.
I used to be.
Yeah.
I think after I did Les Mis, I became I thought, well, this has got some Shakespeare in it.
Yeah.
There was a certain elevation of it all.
Yeah, of course.
And then when I've gone back to direct a lot of the great musicals over time, when I was running the North Carolina Theater, I got a chance to see how great those books were.
Yeah.
And I got to go to school on that and understood it. But my initial thing into it was like, I'm in a musical, but
What goes through your head when you're on stage? I mean, when everyone is actually in sync with each other, nobody's messing up lines, everything is perfect. It's almost like you're actually in that world. What's that like for you?
Well, every time I'm on stage, when I'm doing 8 shows a week on Broadway or anywhere, I suppose, but on Broadway, I feel like I'm wrapping my arms around the world. Everything is right and lined up, and like you said, in sync. When I'm out there doing it and hitting it, and look, I'm scared, I'm terrified. I get anxiety right before I go on, and yet I keep on.
But you can use that as fuel.
You use it as fuel. That's the idea. How do you manage that adrenaline once you're out there? So over the years, it always feels like right and where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
When it's hitting on all, when the show's hitting on all cylinders, that's, and the audience is with you, that's great communication.
Yeah.
I mean, and you feel that from them. But when you're in a piece of great theater, like a Les Mis, what you and the audience have is communion. It does become spiritual.
Of course, and there's definitely a synergy involved with the audience.
Yeah.